Thank you all for being here today. You know, I'm reminded that we've just come full circle. One of the first webinars we did in March on COVID was the top, not 10 questions, but the top things that you need to know about COVID-19 and how to deal with it in your restaurant. So hopefully we have come full circle and we're getting you back open again and things are looking up. And you don't know how happy I am about that. There's other things we've got to deal with coming up, the special session and other things, but nothing like this unprecedented situation that we've just been through. So thanks for bearing with us and thanks for being on these calls with us. I know many of you are on them all the time, and then others can come on when you can, and we definitely appreciate it and hope that we're giving you good information. So I'm going to start out here, and I had time to put together a PowerPoint. So you're going to go through my PowerPoint with me, and all of this will be available to you. Just some housekeeping. Interesting. Is that you all are being muted, and use the chat box to ask any questions, just so you know. The 10 questions turned into 19 questions. And so we grouped them into pieces that I think will make sense to you. But we have 19 questions to go through here. These are questions that have come in through social media, as well as our chat on our website and to my staff. And so that's where we got these top 10 questions. They are the questions I think your questions will be answered, but if you have other questions, please don't hesitate to ask them. We don't have all the answers, but we will try to get them for you. And so we're going to hold your questions until the end. And the slide deck will be available on YouTube as well as on our website under our COVID-19 page. So you all know me, and maybe you do or don't. I am the CEO of the Restaurant Association. I've been here since 2002. That's, I think, about 17 years. And before that, I spent 20 years as a restaurant owner in Las Cruces, New Mexico. So I just wanted you to know a bit about my background. And then I want to introduce you to our staff. Our staff has been absolutely amazing during this, again, this unprecedented time. And some of you know them, some of you don't, but I want you to feel comfortable all the time calling our office or emailing us about anything. And so with that, I'm just going to go through this quickly, but we have Cindy Pone. Cindy has 20 years of restaurant experience, and then she's been with us for 12 years, I believe now, and she is the Director of Finance and Administration. If you have questions about HR or about general business practices, she's sometimes the one that we will send you to. Dion Bauer is our Director of Membership, and she has been doing amazing things during this time. She put together a complete membership page for the vendors that are trying to offer you discounts and things during this time. She's been really helpful to all of our members as well. And then we have Tom Shook. Tom is new to his position at the association. He has been teaching food safety and alcohol server classes for quite some time. And during this time, he's been shepherding the Serving New Mexico funds. And we were able to collect and give back out $90,000 to 389 employees. And Tom has called each one of those employers to make sure that these are people who are working in our industry and that deserve those grants. But we're really happy to have been able to do that, and I'm thrilled that Tom was here to take care of that for us. Then we have Candela Gomez. A lot of you know her from the Hospitality Industry Awards. Candela is usually our events coordinator, but now we're having very few events since we can't meet with each other. So during this time, Candela has been our voice on social media, and she's been just watching the questions that come up and trying to answer them as best she can, and then giving the hard ones to some of us. And Terry Cochran. Terry is the smile and the voice at the end of the phone. She's usually the one who answers the phone. She takes care of fulfillment of SurfSafe and everything to do with that. And again, she's always a smile and happy to get you to the right person if she can't answer your question. We have Lawrence Baker. He's our communications contractor and specialist. And I just want to say that he has, you know, we usually do about 3 alerts a week at the most. And he's been the man who puts together the daily alerts, the email and text campaigns, and he's been working tirelessly to get information out to our members during this time. And so I really thank him profusely. Allison Smith, of course, our government affairs director and contract lobbyist. Allison just has been absolutely wonderful. Anytime we have a question of a government agency, she has been right there to contact them and get an answer back. And sometimes it's within 30 minutes, she'll get an answer back from a state agency on behalf of our members. And it's amazing to work with her as well. We also have Catherine Wright, who is the executive director of the Greater Santa Fe Restaurant Association, which is a chapter of the New Mexico Restaurant Association. And she helps us with those restaurants in Santa Fe. We really appreciate her work as well. So I just thought I would make that introduction to you all. Please, again, don't hesitate to call us. Think of us as your personal assistant to some degree, you know, especially when dealing with the government agencies, and as well as just answering the questions that you have about regulations. So we're going to start these top 10 questions, and Candela is going to read, because many of you know I have a cough that won't go away. And the more talking I do, the more coughing I do. So I'm going to have Candela ask the questions, and then I will answer them. So have at it, Candela.
Perfect. So our first questions have to do with contact tracing. First, do restaurants have to do contact tracing? And what are they required to do for contact tracing?
So everything I'm going to give you today, I'm going to reference most of it in a website, but don't worry about taking that information down. At the end, I'm going to show you where all of that information is on our website so that you can get there very easily. But I wanted to show you that none of this comes from the top of my head. All of this comes from the Department of Health and the COVID safe practices. So to support contact tracing, this is what you have to do. You have to provide all customers who visit the establishment the opportunity to record their name and phone number or email address, along with the date and time of their visit, and you must retain such records for no less than 4 weeks from the date of collection. That's all it says. I was in WEX yesterday, and WEX asked my husband and I as we came in, would you like to give us your name and contact information for contact tracing? We said no. They said fine. They put an N next to our name as we came in, and that sufficed for them. Now, if I had said yes, they would have taken my information, and that would have been, you know, they would have had that one log on one piece of paper. Other folks are putting a comment card down that says, if you would like to have us save your information for 4 weeks, we will do that. And this is for contact tracing. Sorry, I'm about to cough. Candela,
Yeah, I have some follow-up while you go ahead and cough. One of the questions that has come in a couple times on chat and on social media is people wondering if there is a specific form they are supposed to be retaining this information on. Is it fine if they just retain the cards themselves for 4 weeks? How is it they're supposed to be, if they are gathering the information, how is it they're supposed to be storing it? Is there a specific way?
So be careful about storing it, because it is people's private information. So just keep it under lock and key after you've taken it. There is no paper that you have to have. You know, you can keep this in any way that it's convenient for you. Again, it's mandatory for you to make that available to your customers. It's voluntary for your customers. Did I answer that question, Candela? I feel like I didn't.
I feel like you did.
Okay, all right. And moving on.
Can I just add something on that? I think it can, Carol, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it could even be as simple as a reservation book that has then their name and phone number. So if you take reservations, you have their name, you have their phone number. I think it can be as simple as that.
It's got to be something that you can get rid of, though.
Right.
So if you keep your reservations somewhere, it does have to be something that you get rid of after 4 weeks. And here's the thing, you're not sending this anywhere. You're not going to be responsible to call these folks at any point. If in fact there has been something traced to your restaurant, either an employee or a customer, then the state collection people will come and they will start their contact tracing mechanism, which will include your information, but they will ask for that information from you for those days. That's my understanding. Go ahead.
Just a reminder that the state site recommends shredding those documents every 4 weeks, not just throwing them in the trash.
Yeah. So, and did we get through this one, Candela?
Yeah, so next we'll go ahead and talk about restaurant layout as it pertains to social distancing. So can we use plexiglass between booths? What if 7 or more people come in as a party? Can they all be seated together? And what about the self-serve beverage stations?
So the only thing that the health order says is a best practice is to install large plexiglass sneeze guards at cash registers wherever possible. This is not a requirement, and it, from what I can tell, it does not get us away from the 6-foot distancing. So to comply with the state public health order, limitations on bar and counter seating and non-seated service, and if otherwise permitted, ensure that 6 feet or more distance is maintained between customers. That's all it says about spacing. It does not say you can use plexiglass or other barriers to get that spacing distance that you need. And so that is something that we will be talking to the governor about, is being able to use some kind of barrier between spaces that aren't 6 feet apart.
So Carol, just to clarify that one, it is a plexiglass may be used in addition to the 6 feet, not in lieu of the 6 feet.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, and then you must discontinue service stations that require customers to congregate in certain areas or use common utensils, dispensers, including salad bars, buffets, and beverage and coffee stations. So if you have a self-service beverage station or, you know, a salsa station or, you know, something like that, you've got to discontinue those for now. And an employee has to get those beverages. You cannot have customers up and getting their own beverages or getting refills. So according to the state health order, restaurants may provide dine-in service. Now, some of this is a little bit, what do I want to say? It's a little discombobulated because you've got the health order and then you've got the CSPs. And I'll go over that towards the end, but in some cases you have the health order and then the CSPs come back with a best practice and or a requirement. So you may not exceed more than 50% occupancy of the maximum occupancy of any enclosed space on the restaurant's premises, as determined by the relevant fire marshal or fire department. Restaurants choosing to open must ensure that there's at least 6 foot distance between tables. No more than 6 patrons may be seated at any one table. So that's a problem. You get a table of 7 come in, and you're going to have to seat them separately. To comply with these orders, that's what you're going to have to do. You can't seat them at a table, at a large table. And it's just for a while, but you have, you know, you can always tell them this is by the governor's orders. This is not our rule. This is the governor's orders say 6 people per table.
To that end, Carol, we did have a follow-up question in chat. Are babies and small children considered people for the purposes of the 6-person limit per table?
Use your judgment. What is the person going to, you know, if and I don't even know who the cops are on this, but let's say a state policeman comes in, what is the state policeman going to see? Are they going to see 7 people at a table and they're going to give you a ticket? I don't think so. But I also don't want to tell you that that's not going to happen. So use your best judgment. These are the rules. Go ahead, Kendall. You're muted.
It helps if I unmute myself. Okay, so for temperature screening, do I have to take my customers' temperatures, and do I have to actually take my employees' temperature?
So what it says about that, and this is under the employer's CSPs. And again, we'll give you this access to this website as soon as this is almost finished. So you must screen employees before they enter the workplace each day, verbally or with a written form or text-based or other app. Send employees home who are experiencing the follow COVID-19 symptoms related to COVID-19 and direct them to obtain free testing through the Department of Health. So if they have any one of these things, you're supposed to direct them to free testing. Now, it doesn't say anything here about temperatures. So you don't have to take a temperature. But how are you going to know if they have a fever, and how are they going to know if they have a fever if you don't take their temperature? So I'm saying that's a best practice. I believe the state says that's a best practice. And I just think that if you can, you should. And just so you know, I took a COVID test on Sunday and I got my results back yesterday. So it's about a 72-hour turnaround time. And so if you send somebody home, they should be able to get back to you within 72 hours on whether they have COVID or not.
Okay, next we have masks. Do I have to require masks for customers? What if a customer refuses to wear a mask? And what if an employee refuses to wear a mask for health reasons?
So I searched and searched and searched and could not find, and maybe Allison, you can help me, the requirement that customers have to wear masks. Now, I think that's a general requirement for all New Mexicans have to wear masks.
In
It's
public
not that you're-
places.
Say that?
So according to the governor's orders, everyone has to wear a mask in public places. So that's, she has said that over and over again at press conferences. I do believe that is in the public health order. Now, some municipalities are trying to take that a step further and mandating that happen. So yes, the governor is saying people must do this, but somehow it's not a mandate that has any weight of law. But I will tell you, I had a conversation with a city councilor from Las Cruces here just yesterday, and they're really, really hoping that people will follow all of the guidelines on the mask wearing, because that really is a proven way, according to what this counselor was saying, the best way to stop the spread. So if we want to get out of this place that we're in now, we will encourage that mask wearing until we know there is proper treatment or a vaccine. That's what I can say about the face masks. But the governor has put that out as an
It's a general order, I think.
It's a general order. Exactly. Thank you.
So,
That's the word I was searching for. Sorry.
yeah. No, so there's always this caveat, is that unless otherwise advised by a healthcare provider, that goes for customers as well as employees. So if somebody has asthma, they can't wear a face covering. And there's a few other situations where people shouldn't wear face coverings, and they can, but as an employee, I believe you can get them to get a note from their doctor that says they can't wear a face covering. And as far as a customer, if a customer refuses to wear a face mask, that's going to be your call. You know, the difficulty here is that you're going to get those customers that are making other customers put on masks, et cetera. And actually, we heard a very interesting thought process from a policeman. He was a police chief in Las Cruces, and he said they don't want to be the enforcement agency for masks. And what does that do? That makes us be the enforcement agency for masks. So you're really going to have to use your discretion to a degree, and then you can't ask somebody if they have a health situation that doesn't allow them to wear a mask. I wish I had a better answer for you. It's going to be a difficult situation for a while. And as far as employees, you know, if they say they have a health situation that doesn't allow them to wear a mask, then I do believe you can get a doctor's note for that.
If we can just hold on for just a second, because I know we did have a couple follow-up questions about the masks. We had a couple people wondering about masks on line cooks due to the heat factor. And I also personally, as the person who has been looking at so much of the social media stuff, I do want to let you guys know that when guests and customers are in restaurants and they are seeing other people not wearing masks, they will put you guys on blast, and it will be your guys' fault that you are allowing these people into your restaurants, and now they don't feel safe. And so even though you as the restaurateur are not encouraging people to not wear masks, I just want to let you guys know, and I want you guys to be aware that we are seeing this huge uptick in sort of people letting everyone know when you guys are allowing customers into the restaurants without masks on, and it causes other customers to feel uncomfortable. So I do just want you guys to be aware of that, because that's something I'm dealing with frequently on the social media.
I have seen some businesses around town post signs saying, you know, per governor's order, masks are required when entering this establishment. And so that might not be a bad thing to put on. And then hopefully that will then take it away from you all having to constantly remind folks.
Yeah, and so I'm seeing that face shields, there's a question about face shields, and I believe it doesn't say masks. I think it says face coverings or masks, right? So face coverings or masks. And shields are face coverings. And I believe what you're talking about is the plastic shield that goes over. That is, and I've seen people at restaurants with those shields on. I've also seen people in healthcare situations with the shields on. So I do believe that is allowed.
Okay, for outdoor seating, can restaurants serve alcohol outdoors? Floor plan expansions, there is a form for an expedited plan. And does my patio count as part of the fire code percentage count?
So restaurants can serve alcohol wherever the license allows them. If this is a part of the licensed premise, then yes, you can serve alcohol on your patio. If you're just now making up a patio, you know, with your sidewalks or something, then alcohol would not be allowed until you go back to the RLD and get an application for a floor plan expansion. And they are supposed to have, that's supposed to be made easier through this application. You still have to get a sign off from your local option district. That would be your city or your town. And we don't know where all of those local option district sign-offs are, but mostly your planning and zoning folks would know that. And so if you have a particular question for a particular town or city, I know somebody said that, I think it was Santa Fe, that the person there that signs off on these was, you know, working from home and couldn't sign them, you know, and they couldn't make this more difficult for us, I don't think. But if you have those kind of problems, just let us know. We can get you to the right person. And does my patio count as part of the fire code percentage count? We don't believe it does. And until somebody tells us different, we're not going to, we're going to assume that since the fire code is for indoor areas, that the number, the 50% number is 50% of that indoor area. Your outdoor areas, you have to have 6-foot spacing, but it's not included in the 50% number. Per the public health order, restaurants may provide dine-in services. So this is exactly how it's stated, may provide dine-in service, but may not exceed more than 50% occupancy of the maximum occupancy of the enclosed space in the restaurant, on the restaurant premises as determined by the relevant fire marshal or fire department. So there's a couple of ways to read this. We are reading it that the indoor area is a 50% occupancy. You have to have the 6-foot spacing, and then the outdoor area has 6-foot spacing. And that is what we heard from the fire marshal in Albuquerque as well.
So servingware and disposables. Do we have to use disposables only? Do I have to do anything differently to my dishes, servingware, or surfaces other than the pre-COVID ServSafe recommendations? And do my employees have to wear gloves?
So there was one version of the COVID safe practices that had under requirements that you had to use disposables. That was one of the first versions. It's been long gone, but some people still have it. Some people printed it out and they have that. That is not the case. So all it says now about disposables is that you must clean and sanitize reusable items such as menus and condiment containers left on tables after each use. If the items cannot be cleaned and sanitized after each use, offer single-use items. So that goes for your condiments on the table, obviously, and your silverware and your napkins. Somewhere I have heard, and I don't think it was in the COVID safe practices, that you should not preset silverware, but I don't know that that got into any of these. On the second question, so it's the same thing, you know, clean and sanitize. If they can't be clean and sanitized, then offer single use. I think I got that in there twice, sorry. Employees that handle items used or provided by customers must properly wash their hands or change gloves before serving another customer. So if they're touching tableware, cutlery, glasses, credit cards, cash pens, etc., they have to wash their hands or change their gloves. So gloves are not required.
That's another one. I will just say, as far as the social media goes, that's one where a lot of customers have been making a note, again, even though it's not required, but a lot of customers have been making a note of places that are not, where they're not seeing employees wearing gloves when they, even if it's just bringing out a glass of water. If you're not wearing gloves, I guarantee you I'm going to hear about it on social media just because of the optics of it. So. Okay, PPP loan changes and forgiveness. Is the PPP loan forgiveness going to change?
So the House passed legislation that would extend from 8 weeks to 24 weeks the time which the borrowing company can use the loan and extend it past the June 30th date. The legislation is right now being held up in the Senate. Our senators, I don't believe, are holding that up, but anything you can do to talk to our senators, certainly wouldn't hurt. We really need the Senate to pass this legislation. I know so many of you are right on the edge of, you got your loan 6 weeks ago, you got 2 more weeks to go, and then you're done. Not that this extension is going to help you much, but people who got their loans a little bit later might be helped by it. So I want to review our resource page. Sorry. We changed this up because it was confusing people. A lot of the things that were on here were best practices, things that we developed before the state developed anything. And really it's what we use to tell the state that these are the safe practices, which they adopted a lot of what we asked for. But this is where I'm getting all of the information that you just saw. All of the answers come in these 3 links. So there's the public health order. This is the June 1st public health order, and it's 9 pages of whereases and then going back into the public health order. The other things that, now, just so you know, the excerpts from that public health order that have to do with restaurants and hospitality industry are right here. So this is where the restaurants have 50% of their, this is 50% of your sales from food, as opposed to bars, which have more of a percent in food. Anyways, it's a little confusing, but these are all the things that the governor has said that are not in her COVID safe practices. And remember, there's all employers, and then there's restaurants. So restaurants have to abide. You'll see that this looks exactly like the Altogether New Mexico COVID safe practices, because that's what it comes from. But these links are just a little bit easier to get to. You don't have to go through a PDF. So you have to adhere to all required COVID safe practices for employers, and you have to adhere to all COVID safe practices for retail establishments. And then these things are required. And then these things are best practices. They have the same thing under the employers. They have the required, and then they have the best practices. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew how to get to this information. If you have any questions, obviously you can ask us, but I did want you to have that information. If you're looking for the Altogether New Mexico PDF, it's right here, and it does duplicate. I've checked it, and it does duplicate the websites that I've just taken you to. If you want the Alcohol and Beverage Control Department's change of floor plan, it's right here. This is a letter from the director about floor plans. We have daily temperature logs, employee health statements, and everything else here. We have a downloadable restaurant promise poster. You guys have seen that. And then some video resources that you can use that might help you, especially the ServSafe reopening guidance for your employees. So thank you very much. That's all I have, except I know we have some questions and maybe some answers. Is that you, Allison?
That's me. Yeah, I just responded to a question online, but I thought it was, I wanted to bring it to your attention. It was asking about, we were talking about pets on patios, and right now they're saying, please no pets on patios. But the question was about service animals, and can you ask to see their papers? Technically, service animals don't have papers saying that they are service animals, but you can ask 2 qualifying questions. And the question you can ask is, 1, is the dog a service animal required because of a disability? You can legally ask that. And then number two, what work or task has the dog been trained to perform? So that way you can ask those questions if you have any question in your mind. If that's an emotional support animal, those are not service animals. But a service animal that is there to assist someone because they're visually impaired or any other type of disability. So those are some qualifying questions you are legally allowed to ask.
And Allison, since you're still here, we have gotten another question regarding live music. I know we have been telling people that live music is still not an option, even if it still is in compliance with the 6-foot distance, even if it's in compliance with the max occupancy. But they are asking if there is a specific link or information where they can look that up. My understanding was that was just something that we had received in an email, basically.
And Carol may know the answer to this before I do, but I do not believe there's a link to that. But basically, the thought process for on the governor's side is live music will tend to draw crowds. Crowds are not good right now, so therefore no live music. And so that's another reason why concert venues, entertainment spaces are still closed. So really, I would say when in doubt, please no live music. But if we need to get that in writing somewhere, I can certainly get that.
I believe there's also some science and data out there that there was some choir group that everybody got sick after singing together.
Exactly.
And so that's part of why they don't want live music.
Exactly.
So then I have another question for you guys. Are there any restrictions on how late restaurants are allowed to be open? Are kitchens required to be open during that entire time?
No, and I'm trying to think.
Are
No,
we talking
there's
about
no.
the liquor license. If you have a restaurant license, your hours have to cease at as far as serving alcohol. I believe it's 11 o'clock. So, but that's if you have a beer and wine license. But
There's no additional restrictions besides what your.
There are no COVID related restrictions based on that.
No.
That we know of.
Awesome. And does an employee who has one of the symptoms have to get tested? 2, 3, all? How are you guys determining at what point an employee needs to get tested?
It doesn't say. And I don't know what to tell you about that. It just, there is nothing there to tell us.
From an
doubt,
HR point of view, I would suggest you make a company policy on how many you're going to say is when they need to go get tested. Just as a CYA.
Well, and it depends. If it's a fever, they go get tested immediately. If it's a cough, I've had a cough since February. That's not necessarily COVID related, but so what do? I wish I could tell you. I can't, because there is no outline for this anywhere. And Allison, that may be something we go back to the governor with is.
Well, and I can say that anyone who is working can be tested at any time they want to be. And so I do know that the environment department is going, and also the health department is going to be wanting more and more people who are out there in the workforce to be tested. So they can be tested whether or not they have symptoms if they're currently working.
And Carol, this might be a good time to also talk about the ServSafe class situation. We have a question. Since the ServSafe classes have been impacted, is there a reprieve on updated ServSafe management requirements? Mine expired and I plan to take the class when available. So if you want to speak to that at all.
So as far as I know, because we couldn't have classes, the State Department gave our members and folks in the industry a pass as long as they were registered for a class. So what we've done is you can go ahead and register for a class. We'll send you a book. You can take an online class, and then once we can meet again, you can have that. You can either go to a full class, or you can just have your exam proctored. And so we believe that what we're going to be able to do is get about 6 people in our classroom to have their tests proctored. We believe there's also a group in Las Cruces that needs proctoring that we'll have to figure out how to get that done. But right now, as long as you have the registration for the class, and I would say go ahead and read the book and take the online class, you're good to go for the environment department. As soon as we can start proctoring those tests, and as soon as we can get people back in the classroom, we'll do that. And we will let the State Department, the Environment Department, know that we're back and we're holding classes. And you all will know that too. But again, go ahead and get scheduled for a class so that you have the receipt, and that is really what the Environment Department is looking for, a receipt that you are scheduled for the class.
There's a follow-up on, they read somewhere with food manager has to be present at all times. The restaurant is open, not just to serve safe food. Handler, is this correct?
So according to the state guidelines, a ServSafe certified manager, you have to have one of those per restaurant. You have to have a person in charge that can answer all the questions that ServSafe manager, or ServSafe certified person can answer as well. Is that right, guys? I think that's right. So your person in charge has to be able to answer all of the questions. They do not have to have the training, but you have to have at least one person on staff that has that training. And then all of your back of the house employees have to have the food handler license. And that's online, and they're not giving us any breaks for that right now.
We do have a discount code in the office. If you want to contact the office, we can give you a discount code for the online food handler. All those regulations are under rules and regulations under food safety on the website, or you can call us. Jean has just offered to proctor once we can get a location and gather in groups down there in Las Cruces. So
wonderful. Thank you, Jean.
And
that's Jean Hertzman.
One more ServSafe related, and that is if you were registered and the date has expired because you could not take it, Pat, this is from Pat, was told they could not extend the expiration date.
That's correct. The ServSafe actually is pretty much shut down at this point. In addition, their building flooded last week. So if you go to the ServSafe website, it has got a big red banner on it. Yes, your certification may have expired for ServSafe food safety. Remember, alcohol server is completely different and can be done online completely. So that is still an option. If your alcohol server has expired, please call the office and we can get you the link to take the alcohol server test online.
And again, if your ServSafe certification has expired, the State Department is well aware that we're not holding classes right now, and we can't hold classes right now. Get re-registered for a class, and you'll have that piece of paper to show the inspector. Any other questions, Candela?
Yes. Is there information for what we can use for sanitizing now? Can a bleach solution be used?
I assume it can be. That is a
I think that information is available on New Mexico Environment Department's website for the food program. We might want to double check that and link to that, but I'm pretty certain a lot of those sanitization guidelines are posted there.
And then we also have a question as to whether employees are included in the occupancy count.
No, they are not. Good question. Thank you for asking that. employees are not counted in the occupancy. That's the occupancy for the front of your restaurant. That's not including your employees.
And if I can just add to that, if you all are out there and someone in law enforcement is coming in and trying to make that a case, please let us know. We've been very successful in heading that off at the pass before the more strict guidelines were put in place, back several months ago now. So if for some reason you're getting hassled in that way, please let us know, and we will make a very quick phone call to the secretary and get that rectified as best we can.
Questions?
So from my end, it looks like we're good. I did just double check with Facebook and was able to fill in some gaps there. So from what I'm seeing, I think we are all set unless anybody else is seeing something that I am not.
I know there were some questions back on the floor plan expansion. I think Matt had a real good comment on if you're going to be expanding your floor plan beyond the 25%, you do have to go through an entire reapproval. You need to go through the regular form, not the expedited form. But if it's 25% or less, I believe you can use that expedited form, get the LOD to sign off on that. And again, I'll also ask you, if you're having a problem with your LOD, if they're saying, hey, there's nobody here to do this, let us know. We'll see if we can't find a way to pave that road for you.
One thing I did want to warn people is that some of the cities and counties are passing face mask requirements. So, and remind me, Allison, I believe Doña Ana County commissioners passed a requirement that you wear a face mask. And in that requirement, they're making it a $300 fine if you do not, if you were out in public. And that's, so keep an eye out for that. I know that's the thing that the city of Las Cruces is trying to pass. And they will have Friday.
Right, Friday, the Las Cruces City Council in a special meeting will take up that issue.
Yeah. And I just want to say, there's somebody in here that says, go to Way to Surf for an alcohol server permit. I'm sure that's a good program, but the Surf Safe program actually helps the Restaurant Association. It helps us provide you with the information that we do. And so if you could go to Surf Safe, we'd really appreciate it, because that we get a teeny little bit of money back on that, on every time somebody takes that class.
On the mask, there's a comment of how do you eat while wearing a mask? And very good question. I have seen masks online where there's like a little hole for a straw for you to drink your wine through. But I think what they really are, basically the governor's order does say that you have to wear a mask unless you're, when you're eating. I think what we're really wanting to stress is when people are moving about within your restaurant, from your door to the table, from the table to the restroom, anything along those lines. So, but someone could make a lot of money creating a mask that you can eat, with, I don't know.
Well, it defeats the purpose in some ways. I've seen a lot of people wearing their masks below their noses too. And I'm thinking, well, it's more comfortable that way because you can actually breathe, but it's probably defeating the purpose of the mask. And with that, I want to put up here, this is the New Mexico Restaurant Promise, something you can put on your door. And your promise to us is the customer's promise to us. You will wear a face mask when entering and exiting the building or moving about the building. You do not need to wear a face mask when seated at your table. So this doesn't come directly from the governor's health order, but it does come, it does make a lot of sense. And so I think that's kind of, where we're at on this is when you get to your table and you're seated, take your mask off. You're there with your friends and family that you've been around, so you're safe to do this. Anything else?
if I can, I would just like to reiterate, because we had a big issue with this last night. At about 11:15 last night, I was notified that in one of the many food groups for the state on social media, someone had started basically a thread about everyone should share the names of all the restaurants that they have noticed have not been following practices and all of these things. Fortunately, as a moderator on that group, I was able to have that post removed. There were some people that I reached out to personally and said, would you mind sending me the specifics so that we can make sure that these restaurants have the information, have the access to be able to follow these guidelines. But it really, really, really is important that everyone is following these, because the last thing we need is to be shut down again, either because the governor is now going to see all of this stuff that people are not complying, or because the public is just going to go a little crazy about trying to regulate restaurants. So I know it's not fair, I know it's not fun, but after I made that comment on a post at 11:15 at night, by 11:30, I had 45 messages from people laying out restaurants that they have been to in the past few days around the state that have not been in compliance and that they had sort of been blasting on social media. So I just want everyone to please be aware that everyone is watching you, and it is very, very important to do your best, because we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot and not be able to continue opening and continue expanding our occupancy just because a few people decide to not, do what needs to be done.
And the other thing is that it's as hard for the public to know what's required as it is for us, and harder for them. They may think some things are required, and we'll do our best to get the information out there, but we want you to do that as well. Here's the things, and that's why having this promise on your front door is really important. It lets people know these are the things that we're being required to do. And of course, you guys know it's more than just this, but at least when they come in, this is what they're seeing of you. So we really appreciate everybody being here again. Hope that we're being of use to you, and that we're answering your questions. Please don't hesitate always to email me at executive@nmrestaurants.org, and call our office. I introduced you to some of our fabulous staff, and they are standing by ready to take your calls at 343-9848. So thank you all so much. Get a hold of us if you need to. Bye-bye.